go run through the art museum. So we have just finished archaic, and now we're going to get into early classical. And we'll get into high classical, late classical, and Hellenistic in the near future. So we're going to look at the architecture first. Are we ready to move on? At this time, there's decades of war. And so war with whom? If it's called the Persian Wars, who are they fighting? Yeah, they're fighting Persia. It's the end of the war, and they have decades of peace after the war. And this is the period of the best art and architecture of ancient Greece, as well as plays, writing, philosophy, and history. This is what is called the classical period. During war, there's not much time to make art. There's not much time to write plays and other things of that sort. They're too busy making weapons and running off to fight. And also, it's a fight for survival. So when you're just trying to survive, you don't have time for luxuries. So all that is in red is the Persian Empire. And what is in green is the Greek nation, or the Greek city-states. And the Persian army in pink up here goes on land and around and down to fight with the Greeks. And the navy comes up from below and fights on these islands and invades Greece that way. But we're done with the war. Let's go to Olympia. What does the word Olympia sound like? Yes, the Olympics. The Greeks invented the Olympics. They began the Olympics. So it began in 776 BC. Representatives from each city-state would compete to honor Zeus every Olympiad, every 4 years. And the Pausanias was a race to entertain the newborn Zeus. All right, and the Pindar is after Heracles finished his labors, he established a festival to honor the father, Zeus. And the Pelops won a chariot race through, so we'll talk about that in just a second. The first great monument of classical art is the site of the Olympic Games, and it's also one of the seven wonders of the ancient world is the statue of Zeus on the inside. And this is what the temple looks like nowadays. The temple is no longer there, but there is an identical temple over in Italy. It's the sister temple of the Temple of Zeus, and it's the Temple of Hera. And it's almost identical in every way. But it's the pediment that makes this important. So we're still with the Zeus, the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. On one side of the temple, the east pediment that faces the sun, is the chariot race. And then on the west pediment is the Centauromachi. So let's take a look at the Centauromachi. This is the complete pediment up here, and this is what is left of it. And this is placed in a museum. So anytime you go into a museum and you see these old ones, if it's arranged like a giant wide triangle, then you know that it comes from a pediment. So I bet you guys are wondering what the heck is a Centauromachi. We're going to do the chariot race first, though. All right, so you know in Greek art, or in Greek mythology, what causes the most problems in Greek mythology? All right, the red part is hubris. The green part is fate or prophecy that couldn't be avoided. The black part is some god threw a hissy fit because the human was better than them. Or the purple part, Zeus couldn't keep it in his pants. So on this story, it's a fate or prophecy that could not be avoided. So we're going to start the story with Hippodamia and Oenomaus. So we have a king and his daughter, the princess. The king goes to the oracle and says, "Oh, wise oracle, tell me the future." And she says, "You will be killed by your son-in-law. He only has one daughter." So what does that mean? So Hippodamia is of the age where she is able to marry, and there's lots of suitors that are interested in her. So how does he keep her from getting married? Here's how he keeps her from getting married. So a suitor comes to him and says, "I want to marry your daughter." It says, "I want to marry your daughter." He says, "Okay, but first you have to beat me in a chariot race. And if you lose, you die." So They go in the chariot race, and he cheats every time. All right, and he puts the head of the loser up on a stake to warn other people that want to marry his daughter not to try. So Hippodamia falls in love with Pelops, and this is the guy that she wants to marry. And so she decides to sabotage her father's chariot during the race and make it so that he wins. So the chariot just falls apart. Her father dies in the wreck, and then she is able to marry her father. I don't have a joke for this. I'll think of one later. So then Pelops organizes chariot races as a thanksgiving to the gods and as a funeral to honor the king that just died that he was a part of. And it was from this funeral race that held at the Olympia that the beginnings of the ancient Olympic Games were inspired. So Pelops becomes a great king, a local hero, and Peloponnese, or the Peloponnesian Peninsula, is named after Peplops, or Peplos. All right, so then let's take a look at the chariot race side of the pediment. So we have Zeus in the center, all right, Pelops, Hippodamia, whom he married, Oenomaus, that's the king. This takes place before the race, and everybody is calm. But one thing we want to point out is this dude right here. All right, if we get a closer look at him, everybody's calm except for this guy. And he is a seer. He knows the future. And so this is rare for somebody of his age to be shown in art. Usually you have somebody that is young in art. But the inclusion of a beard shows old age and wisdom. But he knows what's going to happen at the race. He knows that the king is going to die. And also, if you look at his face, we no longer have the archaic smile. So this is the end of the archaic smile. On the other side of the temple, we have the Centauromachi. The story of the Centauromachi goes something like this. Apollo falls in love with Stilbe. She is a nymph, and she is the daughter of the river god Peneus. They have two children. Lapithes is very handsome and very strong and very intelligent and a general great guy. He's a hero. Centaurus is deformed and a bit simple, and he is very unattractive. And Centaurus really loves women, but women are absolutely repulsed by him. So if you can't get a woman to be your girlfriend, then the next best thing, I guess, is a horse. And this is where centaurs come from. All right, now, Centaurus goes on to breed a whole race of centaurs. Lapithes goes on to breed a whole race of lapiths. Very beautiful, very healthy, very strong culture of people. Now, Centaurus and Lapithes are brothers, so they are family. There is a Lapith wedding. At a wedding, you have to invite family, right? So they invited the centaurs. Now, at the wedding, what do you usually have at weddings? Is you have wine at weddings. It's a celebration. This is the first time that centaurs have ever had wine. How do you think they behaved? Yeah, they caused problems. All right, so the centaurs caused a problem at the wedding. In fact, they tried to make off with all the women at the wedding. And so when they tried to get handsy with the women, all the Lapith men started beating up the centaurs. So there's a massive fight at the wedding. And that, my friends, is a Centauromachi. So here we have an image of the Centauromachi. Here is a centaur grabbing a woman and trying to take her. Over here, we have another centaur who's trying to grab a woman, and she is pushing him away. We'll get close-ups of these. And I put this picture in to show you just how large these images are or how large these sculptures are. Here's another size comparison right here. There's a close-up view of Apollo, maybe. Here we go. She's giving him an elbow to the face. She's fighting back. He's getting handsy. You can see where his hands are. That's inappropriate. And she is fighting back. She has her arms pushing his face away as he comes onto her. And down here, they are struggling to get away from each other. All right, now, so remember metopes. These are the metopes of the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. And in the metopes, we have the story of Heracles and the 12 labors. So the west porch has 6, and the east porch has 6. The story of Heracles. All right, so Zeus falls in love with literally everything and anything. I've shown you guys the list of Zeus's partners. That makes Hera very angry. So he tries to disguise himself every time he has one of these affairs. So this time he falls in love with Alcmene. She is the queen of Amphitryon. Amphitryon is a warrior king, and Amphitryon is away at war. So he disguises himself as Amphitryon, and she says, well, I wasn't expecting you. I mean, you're home early. Aren't you supposed to be fighting right now? And he says, I came home early for you. And then the very next day, the real Amphitryon shows up, and she says, you were just here yesterday. And Zeus has sex with her, and her husband has sex with her. So, and she gets pregnant, and she's having twins. One of those twins is Zeus's, and one of those twins is her husband's. All right, and so the first great grandson of Perseus will become the king of Mycenae. Hera arranges it so that Eurystheus, the twin of Heracles, is born first. And it was supposed to be Heracles that was supposed to be born first. And she realizes, Alcmene knows that having Heracles will be chaotic for her home. It will be best if Heracles grows up in another family. So she places a baby on a walking trail in a forest. Somebody will come by and help the baby. So Hera and Athena are walking by, and they see the baby. And they say, oh, what a cute baby. And they pick up the baby, and Hera nurses the baby. So Heracles, the spawn of her wayward husband, is nursing from her. And also, Heracles is getting a god's milk. So that makes him even stronger. That gives him more vigor. And they're very impressed by him. Athena gives him courage. Hera gives him strength. And then, but he sucks so hard that it causes her pain. It's causing her, a goddess, pain. So she pulls him away. It spurts so much that it causes the Milky Way. So at night, and especially out in the country, if you look out of the sky, you can see the Milky Way. Now, your science teacher is going to try to tell you that that's part of the galaxy that you're looking from. But no, that's the mother the milk from the breast of Hera. Anyways, they figure out that this is the spawn of Zeus, and Hera becomes really angry. She is absolutely furious that she's kind of been tricked into this. And so Heracles eventually grows up. He's a hero, and he marries Megara, and he has children. Hera still hates him. And so she puts a spell on him that causes him to go insane. So he thinks he's fighting monsters when really it's his family that he's fighting. And when he comes out of a spell, he has killed his wife and his children. So he's feeling very sad. He goes to the Delphi, and he asks the Delphi what he can do to feel better. So she tells him to go and serve his cousin, King Eurystheus, for 10 years and performing whatever tasks he asks of you. Eurystheus hates Heracles, and he wants to give him tasks that'll make him, that are impossible for him to complete, or that will eventually kill him. So the first impossible task is to slay the Nemean lion. All right, and this lion has been roaming the countryside, being a huge nuisance of itself, killing the crops, killing babies, killing children, and even the soldiers can't defeat it. It has a magical hide, a magical skin that makes it impervious to weapons. So swords, spears, arrows, none of that has any effect on the lion. So how does Heracles kill it? He strangles it to death. He wrestles it to death. Now, this is one of the more popular stories of Heracles. After he slays the Nemean lion, he is always depicted wearing a lion skin. So here's the lion skin on his head. Even here in the Hercules Disney movie, he wears the lion skin of, what's the character from, yeah, who? Scar from Lion King. All right. Anyways, Heracles pops up all over Greek art. So if ever you see somebody wearing a weird lion skin wrapped around his shoulders over his head, then you'll know that that is Heracles. Also, if you see somebody carrying a lion skin, that is also Heracles. Or if you see somebody next to a lion skin, that is also Heracles. If you see somebody wrestling a lion, that is also Heracles. We have a red figure vase showing him wrestling a lion. We have a black figure vase showing him wrestling a lion. And anyways, we are discussing the temple of Zeus at Olympia, and here is one of the metopes showing the slaying of the Nemean lion. All right, his second labor is to slay the Hydra. And so he is with his buddy Iolaus. Anyways, Heracles fights the Hydra, and every time he cuts off the head, what happens? Two more grow back, and so it's impossible to kill it. So, with the help of Iolaus, anyways, with the help of his good friend, he is able to cut off the heads, and his good friend cauterizes the wound, preventing the heads from growing back. So, if ever you see on Greek art somebody fighting a multi-headed snake-like creature, that is Heracles and the Hydra. On the Temple of Zeus, which is the building that we are studying for this, is the metope showing Zeus fighting the Hydra. Then we have the capture of the hind. I bet you're wondering what a hind is. Hind is like a deer. And this is a very special deer. It's an enormous female deer. It's larger than a bull, and it has golden antlers like a stag. It has hooves of bronze or brass, and it has a dappled hide. And it is super fast. It takes Heracles a full year just to find it. This is one of a set of 5 holy hinds created by Artemis, and they pull her chariot. And this is the only one that is free. The other 4 belong to Artemis pulling her chariot. So anyways, if you see on a Greek vase painting, this dude wearing a lion skin and this deer with the golden antlers, that is the second labor of Heracles. And this is the metope on the right, what's left of it, from the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. The fourth labor is to capture this enormous boar. And this boar is absolutely huge. Just like the lion, it is creating a problem in the countryside, and it is very strong, and Heracles has a hard time wrestling with it. So he chases it into the snow, and as the boar has to walk through the snow, it wears itself out, and then Heracles is able to bring it back. And when he does, Eurystheus is so scared to see the boar that he hides inside of a big vase. So here he is hiding inside the big vase. He's such a chicken. Anyways, on the metope for the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, you can see the original metope and what it was supposed to have looked like. All right, his fifth labor is to clean the Aegean stables in a single day. What is a stable? What is it? What kind of animal does it have in it? Horsies, that's right. And what do horsies do a lot of that you need to clean up? They poop a lot. All right, the cattle and the horsies. Can you see the mounds of poop? All right, it's absolutely. And how do you clean that up in a single day? Well, Heracles, he throws boulders into a river, diverts the river, and the river rushes through the stables, cleaning out all the poop. And in this image, you can see all the poop going out the back end of the stables. So here is the metope for cleaning out the stables. The sixth labor is to slay the Symphalian birds. These birds have a bronze beak and bronze claws and bronze feathers that they shoot at you. These birds are killers. They are able to kill men, so they need to get rid of these birds. But how do you fight like a whole big flock of birds? So Athena gives him these special drums, and as he beats the drums, that causes them to fly up, and he's able to shoot them down with a bow and arrow. And the arrow is tipped or dipped in the blood of the Hydra. So he's able to kill them that way. You can see that on black figure vases. And this is our metope from the Temple of Zeus. The seventh labor is to capture the Cretan bull. All right, so he has to go all the way to Crete. It's a long sail for him, but he eventually gets to Crete and finds the bull. By the way, this is the exact same bull that Minos refused to give to Poseidon. This is the same bull that Poseidon made Minos' wife fall in love with. This is the same bull that is the father of the Minotaur. He is able to wrestle the bull and bring the bull back. When he brings it back, Eurystheus is rude to him, so he just lets the bull go, and the bull terrorizes everybody in the room. All right, so if you look on Greek vase painting, you can see him wrestling with the bull. That's Eurystheus on the left. And then at the temple of Epheus, you can see Heracles fighting with the bull. The eighth labor is to steal the mares of Diomedes. Now, Diomedes is the king of he rules over Thrace. He's a real big jerk. And one of the things that makes him a big jerk is he has these two thugs that work for him. And if he finds any foreigners in his land, he will take the foreigner and throw the foreigner to his horses, and the horses will eat the foreigner. Right? These are man-eating horses. When Heracles gets to Thrace, the locals there tell him all the horrible things that Diomedes has done. And sure enough, Diomedes learns of Heracles in Thrace, and he doesn't like foreigners. So he comes to get Heracles to throw him to his mares, his horses. Heracles defeats the guards and throws Diomedes into his own horses, and he gets eaten by his own horses. Later on, a friend of Heracles gets eaten by the horses. That's not a good thing. Anyways, you'll find images of the horses and Heracles on Greek vases. And at the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, this is the metope that shows Heracles and the mares. The ninth labor is to obtain the girdle of Hippolyta. Does everybody know what a girdle is? Women might often wear a girdle to suck in or to make their waist look smaller. Now, Eurystheus has a spoiled daughter, and she wants the girdle of Hippolyta. So he sends Heracles to go and get it. Hippolyta is the queen of the Amazons. So it won't be easy to take the girdle from Hippolyta. And that girdle was given to her by Ares. She's not going to give it up easily. But it turns out Hippolyta and Heracles are actually friends. And she's just going to give it to him without any drama at all. Well, Hera doesn't like that. Hera hates Heracles. And so Hera she disguises herself as an Amazon and whispers to the other Amazon warriors that Heracles is going to try to kill everybody and steal the girdle. So they all attack Heracles, and he fights back, killing them all, and then he takes the girdle. You will often find Heracles fighting the Amazons on Greek vase painting. And then here is the metope on the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, showing Heracles fighting the Amazons. The 10th labor is for him to steal the cattle of Geryon. Now, Geryon is a giant, and he lives on a distant island. And everybody that has sailed away to go to Geryon has never come back. Eurystheus is hoping that Heracles never comes back. The island of Geryon is just on the other side of the Straits of Gibraltar right here. The Straits of Gibraltar is rather unique. It's a very narrow body of water between Africa and Europe. And so when Heracles sails there, he is blocked because the Straits of Gibraltar are not there yet. It is a mountain range. So he is stopped by the mountain range. Well, that shouldn't stop Heracles. He divides the mountain in two and makes this narrow passage so that he could sail through. Now, your history teachers and your science teachers are going to try to tell you that it's from tectonic plates and erosion, all right? But that's a filthy lie. It was made by Heracles. So when Heracles gets to this island and he sees Geryon, well, Geryon is a giant that has 3 bodies, not just 3 heads. He has 3 heads, 6 arms, and 6 legs. He is a very difficult creature to fight. And he throws Heracles around like a rag doll. Hera is helping Geryon. And as long as she helps Geryon, there's no way that Heracles can defeat Geryon. So what does he do? He shoots Hera with an arrow that is dipped in the blood of the Hydra. That injures her, so she has to go back up to Mount Olympus to heal. And at that point, Heracles is able to defeat Geryon, and he's able to take all the cattle. So here is a black vase painting of Heracles fighting the giant of Geryon. And then here is the metope from the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. Number 11 is to bring back the golden apples from the Garden of Hesperides. The golden apples, the story of the golden apple starts with the marriage between Hera and Zeus. At this wedding, Gaia, who is the mother of Hera, gives her a golden apple. And they plant the golden apple at the Garden of Hesperides. This is the most beautiful garden. It is at the edge of the world, so it is very difficult to go to. And actually, nobody really knows where it is except for the gods that live there. And also, the other unusual thing about this is because it's on the edge of the world, it is an island where the sun is perpetually setting. So it is eternally afternoon at the Garden of Hesperides. So they plant the golden apple, the seeds from the golden apple, and it creates this tree that sprouts golden apples. Hera has these nymphs of the west tend to the tree, but they start eating the apples, and she doesn't like that. So then she puts this dragon to guard the tree of the golden apples of Hesperides. Now, Heracles has no idea where the Garden of Hesperides is, but you know who does? Atlas knows where it is. That's why we named a book of maps Atlas, because he knows where everything is. And also, you guys know that Atlas is the guy who has the world on his shoulder. He holds up the earth. So Heracles goes to ask Atlas, hey, where's the Garden of Hesperides? Atlas says, I can't tell you where it is, but I can go get them. If you'll hold up the world for a while, I'll go and get them for you. So that's what Heracles does. For a while, Heracles holds up the world, and Atlas brings back the golden apples. But then Atlas thinks, you know what? I'm tired of holding up the world. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I think I'm just going to let Heracles hold up the world, and I'm going to go do my own thing. And at that point, Heracles says, "Okay, okay, all right, you got me. I'll hold up the world, but if you'll just like let me just like adjust my sandal, it's a bit uncomfortable." And knowing how uncomfortable like a stone in your sandal or the sandal being the wrong way is, Atlas feels sorry for Heracles, holds up the world while he adjusts his sandal, and at that point, Heracles takes the golden apples and takes off. In Greek art, here is Heracles sitting on his lion skin, and he is with the nymphs that guard the tree of the golden apples of Hesperides. And then here is a black figure vase showing Atlas returning with the golden apples for Heracles. And then here is the metope showing the temple of Zeus at Olympia, where Atlas returns with the golden apples. Okay, and then the final labor of Heracles is to capture Cerberus from Hades. One of the problems for Eurystheus is that he hates Heracles so much, but Heracles, each time that he finishes one of these impossible tasks, he gets more and more popular with people. Eurystheus hates him even more and more, and that's almost impossible to hate him more, but every time he completes a task, he hates him more. He sends Heracles to Hades. No human has ever come back from Hades. Once you go to Hades, that's it. You're stuck. But Heracles, Hades is his uncle. If his father is Zeus and Hades is the brother of Zeus, then Hades is the uncle of Heracles. So he gets a guide. Hermes guides him through Hades. That's where all the souls are. And he asks his uncle, "Okay, can I borrow Cerberus?" And his uncle Hades says, "Okay, but only if you subdue it by brute strength alone," which is exactly what Heracles does. He subdues Cerberus, brings Cerberus back, and once again, Eurystheus hides in a vase because he's scared of the beast. And then Heracles lets Cerberus go, and Cerberus runs back to Hades. Eurystheus has no choice but declares Heracles free from his service and releases him of his obligations. So here is Heracles and Cerberus, and here is Heracles and Cerberus, and then here is Heracles and Cerberus on the Temple of Zeus at Olympia.